Joining me live now is Michael Rubin, Senior Fellow with the American Enterprise Institute. You've seen him on India Today before. Mr. Rubin, thanks very much for your time. Good to have you on India Today at a time that we're reporting an important story. Right off the bat, Mr. Rubin, I'd like to quote the title of a column that you did on an Indian platform yesterday, where you said India should designate Canada as a state sponsor of terror. Why do you think that should happen at this time?
Well, you know, Shiv, the basic problem right now is that many people don't know the depth of this issue. They don't know about Khalistani extremism, and they don't know about the double standards in which Canada is engaged. Let's put terrorism aside. The United States has designated in the past Cyprus and Armenia as states of money laundering concern. And rather than react with opprobrium, what they did is they did a deep dive into their own behavior and they removed themselves from that list. If India is serious about Canada and Canada is being a soft spot for terror finance, a safe haven for Khalistani extremism, then make the designation on objective factors, and then Canadian and Indian diplomats can meet to discuss a roadmap for Canada removing itself from the list.
But don't you think, Mr. Rubin, that if India chose to designate Canada as a state sponsor of terror, wouldn't it logically need to do the same with the United States, which is virtually unthinkable considering what the United States has done with a designated terrorist like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu?
Yes and no. When it comes to Canada, Canada's behavior with India has been very different than the United States' behavior with regard to India. There's been much more coordination and cooperation, and if I may, seriousness behind the scenes between India and the United States in order to address the problem of Khalistani extremism. The Indian consulate in San Francisco has been attacked twice, and the United States has been working with India with regard to this and understands the broad context of the Pannoon issue. Air India 182 was brought down by Khalistani terrorists. There really has been no difference between Najjar and Osama bin Laden, in which the United States went into Pakistan, into Abbottabad, to kill him. So I think the different behavior within the United States and Canada merits the difference.
Can you help us understand, Mr. Rubin? Because, of course, it is understood that diplomacy is often complicated. There are many layers to relationships between countries. But the Indian public watching this story on India Today right now is wondering why the United States is doing this, why the United States has taken a specific aggressive stand as far as Khalistani separatists is concerned, something that obviously harms India. Can you help us understand that, especially at a time when India and the US are seen to be coming closer in virtually every other way?
Well, Shiv, it's a great question, and you point out some of the hypocrisy of American actions. What I would say with regard to Matthew Miller, the National Security Council spokesman's comments, as you said, they were rather boilerplate. I say as an analyst rather than as an advocate, my read of this is that the Biden administration much rather concentrate on Russia and Ukraine, on Israel and Lebanon, Israel and the Palestinians, and is looking at the Justin Trudeau temper tantrum with regard to India as an unnecessary distraction. So when I look at the statement which I saw, I see an effort by the United States to kick the can down the road until the Biden administration ends and they don't have to deal with this anymore. But you know what? India can flip the narrative on Canada. When it comes to cooperating with the investigation, at issue is whether Canada is going to be able to interrogate Indian diplomats, Indian officials. Well, why doesn't India say, this problem started in 1985 with the bombing of Air India. We want to interrogate Canadian intelligence. We want to interrogate the ministers who allowed Najjar to come in illegally as a criminal and then normalize his application. We want to talk to Justin Trudeau directly to see how much of this is political, how much of this is due to the legacy of his father. The story didn't start with Najjar's death. The story started decades before, and India needs to make that clear directly and aggressively.
Do you think that there are other options or other actions that India could proactively take vis-a-vis Canada at this time? We heard the Foreign Minister of Canada, Mr. Rubin, say that everything is on the table, including economic sanctions. One cannot immediately read the likelihood or the possibility of any of those actions being taken. Things are as bad as they are already. But do you believe India should go ahead and take some steps anyway?
Look, the way I look at it is this, Shiv. India is a major power on the world stage. It's the world's most populous country. It's the world's largest democracy. Yes. Canada can't treat it like a servant. Canada can't treat it like a water boy. The fact of the matter is, India is making very clear what the consequences would be, hoping that Canada would back down, because make no mistake, what Justin Trudeau is doing isn't a matter of principle. It's a matter of his own cynical political calculations. Much of what motivates Justin Trudeau appears to be a desire to deflect, to distract from the fact that he is 10% behind in the national polls heading into an election. The role of India isn't to be there for Canada's political convenience, and that's what India needs to make clear to all Canadians.
I completely agree. In fact, my show yesterday did focus on the fact that this appears to be a big distraction from the many domestic issues that Trudeau faces right now in the run-up to elections next year. One final question, Mr. Rubin, is, we've seen the statements from the Five Eyes as well. Those appear to be expected statements. It wasn't like the countries that are part of Five Eyes were going to oppose what Canada had said. They needed to put out these statements. Should India be reading anything into that, or is that just, routine?
Well, let me look I think it's routine, Shiv. When I worked at the Pentagon, I was a consumer of intelligence. And the way I read this is when the United States has smoking gun evidence of a pending assassination, whether it's in a friend's territory or an enemy's territory, as policy, we give a heads up. What happened with Najjar was that after the assassination, the United States said, hey, look, we can provide you with a lot of the chatter, a lot of the background intelligence, which we happen to have. I don't see any smoking gun there. If there was a smoking gun, it would have been provided ahead of time. Justin Trudeau, for his own political convenience, appears to have decided to make an accusation and then hide behind CIA secrecy, hide behind national security agency secrecy, Five Eyes secrecy, and that must be frustrating to no end. The intelligence professionals who don't like their technocratic services being corrupted for these political reasons. That's how I read the broader context of this situation.
Michael Rubin, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for taking my questions and helping us understand this unfolding story. Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you.